Hi, welcome to Behind the Badge. I'm Chief Alan Rodbell of the Scottsdale Police Department. With me is Miss Chris Vassal, our community liaison.
I love the miss part. Do you know what? We have to have a new opening because we say the same thing every time, don't we?
Oh, you know what? You're right. So
we're going to have to come up with something new if our viewers want to say new opening.
I'm going to be somebody different?
No,
I have
just
a different
like,
voice today.
Hi. Yeah, that's right, because nobody would really recognize his voice.
So it's just now coming back. My wife was thrilled that I had laryngitis. She's not so happy it's coming back.
It's actually better now. I'm going to share with the audience what you said to me when you came in the office the other day. He could hardly talk. He was like, and I said, what happened? He goes, I was yelling at everybody. He was kidding. And so I said, am I next? And he goes, like that, and I said, oh, I would have been able to tell just with your eyes. You didn't even have to talk if I was in trouble.
Not that bad.
No, anyway, we're only kidding. He's fine.
Welcome, folks. And so before we get started on the show, the summer is almost over. This is it. How quickly it occurred. School's starting already.
Is really summer ever over?
Yeah, but that's true here and there.
I mean, like seriously.
It's hot and hotter the two seasons.
September it'll still be 100 degrees, but officially summer is over, and the kids should be going back to school soon. Which
again means school zones. You should slow down anyway, obviously around schools, because even after school hours, kids are out playing and enjoying the parks. But at the same time, kids will be back. A little more traffic with folks going back to school and getting the kids in there safely. So please be careful.
I think it's starting next week, I thought. Isn't it?
Yeah, some are.
Yeah,
There are different school systems, different ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we have 3 school systems here in Scottsdale. So viewers, maybe in any one of those 3 school systems, they all have different dates.
Totally.
Yeah, and so and other than that, it's still warm, so people are still swimming. So again, be careful of the kids around pools and be mindful. Even though school started and we kind of think of nobody's in the pool anymore, they're still out there.
Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, so what's going on in the department? Anything?
No, it's been summer though. You know, it kind of does slow down for administrative like us, not for the street people obviously, but for us, it's once people start to get back into their routines, people come home from vacation, it starts to pick up again. Citizens Academy begins in September.
So
we're working on that. No, I'm totally full.
Oh, wow.
But we have a March class coming up, so it's good to get your applications in early.
Yeah.
And speaking of which, with our guests today, I mean, this is just a part of some of the things that you learn in Citizens Academy.
Very
again.
Cool.
Yeah.
So why don't you introduce our guest today and we'll talk a little about the program.
Oh, you're so sweet. Rabbi Kravitz is to my left. Rabbi Shishon is in the middle, and Chaplain Don Burgess is on the end.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about our chaplaincy program,
yes,
which is a total volunteer program here in Scottsdale, and we've had it for a number of years. And membership sometimes gets a little larger numbers, and then of course shrinks down again. So people come and go, but we've been fortunate enough to have three folks with us that have been with us for a little bit of time now, and certainly someone
Two of them have been here a long time, one in a different capacity.
Exactly, that's a good point. And we'll get to Don's background in a little bit when we get to talk to Don.
Because I used to work for him.
He did my background.
Now he works for me.
Yeah, Don did my background. Don knows more about me.
You never know what's going to happen.
And he knows more about me than I know about him, so he's just going to hold that against me. But the bottom line is, you're right. Two have worked for a while in different capacities, and we have someone relatively new, but it's been here for over a year, right?
Exactly.
Right? So that's a relatively long period of time.
And he feels like he's been here a really long time.
Yeah, he's very much part of it.
He kind of got really involved very quickly.
So guys, welcome. Excited to have you here.
Thank you, Chief.
I'm sure this is one aspect of a police department that citizens just don't have a lot of awareness. Perhaps if they go to Citizens Academy and hear about it, or they happen to see somebody that I guess might have some idea of the program and taking advantage of the program. But chaplaincy really is a support group for internal, although oftentimes we call upon them to help us with issues that impact the community. So it's great to have you here. You guys are volunteers, and thank you so much for volunteering the hours that you do volunteer for us, which I know are great and many, and we really appreciate that.
Plus being volunteers, they also have very important positions outside and do like a real job too as well, besides
real
jobs besides helping us. So we want to make sure that we acknowledge that they do take extra time, not only that they're volunteering, but they're doing it above and beyond the call of duty of what they do normally.
Yeah. So let's get started. Rabbi Kravitz, you're a senior And you've been here probably, well, you've been here as long as I've been here, actually, 16 years now.
Yes, sir.
Which is just wonderful amount of service to the community. And I know you don't just service our community, sometimes in the past, if not still, you work with other police departments in the area as well.
Well, I retired my Phoenix badge as a chaplain after 20 years, 4 years ago.
Wow.
And I maintained my badge with the Department of Public Safety. I work with the Highway Patrol and some of the non-sworn folks too.
That's a lot of volunteering, and thank you for all that, and great service. And so give us a little bit about your background and how you came into this. Can you remember?
Can I remember that far back? When you get old, the brain kind of gets squishy. I had run into somebody, namely the chief of Phoenix, and we were sitting at a community event of some kind, and a chaplain gets up and does an invocation, and it was okay, nothing offensive or difficult with it. But I looked at the chief and I said, "Do you have any Jewish chaplains?" And he said, "No." I said, "Do you want one?" And he said, "Yes." At the time I was chairing the City of Phoenix Human Relations Commission, so he knew about me. And so I figured, okay, he'd write a letter, "Bob Kravitz is my new chaplain, signed chief." Instead, he sends me the pre-employment packet, which every officer gets. Fill it out with your entire history, all the way back to the day after you were born, all the contact phone numbers, the street addresses, the dates, everything, every place you've ever worked, which for me was a challenge because I've worked forever. And I finally put it together. It took me a month to get all the names and everything, and I send it to him. I figure, okay, now I'll get the letter. No, I get a phone call telling me that my polygraph is set for such and such a date, and I'll go in and they'll wire me up and run me through that. They'd already run my fingerprints through the FBI database, which wasn't a problem because I'd been worked with the Air Force before, and so they had my fingerprints there. So that comes back, and that was fine. I figured, okay, now I'll get my letter. And no, I get a phone call. Your oral board is such and such a date. Please come in and sit with a police representative, a civilian representative, and your supervisor. And we went through that, and then I became a police chaplain.
Yes,
and
it's a process. All our volunteers are kind of subject to going through the same background as any employee. So that is our policy.
It's critically important that we vet people, because I've had experiences over the years where folks want to come in and say, "Oh, I'm going to be a police chaplain, and I'm going to do this to the department. I'm going to make those people that way." And if they have already an agenda, we probably need to weed them out, because we need people as chaplains, certainly in this department and DPS, who can work with anybody. The fact that I'm a rabbi has nothing to do with my chaplaincy, unless I happen to be dealing with a Jewish person. But I have to deal with, and enjoy dealing with, people of all different faiths and no faith, with people of different sexual orientations, with people of different ethnic and religious and racial and all kinds of backgrounds. And chaplains need to do that. And one of the ways that we learn how to do that, if we don't have that expertise initially, is to go through the training that we've all gone through with the International Conference of Police Chaplains, which is an accrediting agency all over the world. It is the premier educational and training program for police chaplains.
And you guys just got back.
Yeah,
That's right.
This is where you just got back from.
We just returned from a week of training in Norfolk, Virginia, where they held the international conference, and my colleagues will attest to the fact that there were people from all over the world. It isn't just that we say we're international and we have one guy from Canada show up. He was there too, but we had all people from African countries and people from South America. It was an incredible event, and a tremendous amount of teaching goes on. And so gentlemen like these two had the opportunity to build up their backgrounds and to learn what it's like educationally to be a police chaplain, and to bolster what it is that they came with to the department already.
Thank you. And guys, similar experience coming on board? Donna, you're a little different because you were a police officer first. I'll get to you in a second. But Rabbi, you had similar kind of experience in getting through a process?
The process was just like that. I think I counted the pages 37. There were a 37-page application, a 4.5-hour interview, aside from the polygraph, and then somewhat of a waiting game until we found out whether we were on board. And I've been on board since late January of 2016, about a year and a half. And I think it's important to mention that the very beginning of the process was in May of that year, of the year before, of May of 15, when I called the department, and I think I spoke to Chris, and I was told the process, and the process includes the Citizens Academy, which from my perspective is like a must for anybody who has interest in what the police department does and what public safety is all about. It was a tremendous experience. I don't know, it changes from time to time. At that time it was 8 weeks, 3 hours each of those weeknights, and I learned about every little portion of the department, and it was required before the process that Rabbi Kravitz spoke about. And then the process was what the process was. For me, I came into it primarily because I had decided, I work as a full-time synagogue rabbi. So I have my own congregation, and that, I don't need to tell anybody of any faith, that's a very involved job. It's involved from the perspective of running the synagogue and the business of the synagogue, but fundamentally it's about taking care of people and being there for people in their times of need. And what was for me exciting or desirable was to serve those who serve. I had for a long while considered military chaplaincy, but military chaplaincy is a much more involved process as far as time away from family, time away from community. And I reached a point in my life where I realized, based on age and the size of my, the blessing of the size of my family, that I wasn't going into military chaplaincy. And it was at that time that I called Rabbi Kravitz, because I knew that he was involved in chaplaincy in general. And I called several other people around the community and said, what are the ways I can serve those who serve in the context of chaplaincy? And I was very excited about the theoretical possibility of Scottsdale, so I called, I followed up, and that's when that process began. So I've been here a year and a half, and I'm, like many people from the state of Arizona, I'm really from Chicago, and so I've been in Arizona 15 years, serving in the capacity of the synagogue for the last 13 years, and extremely, I feel, I've expressed this to you before, Chief. To me, I've been impressed with how the police family is really a police family, and I feel beyond privileged to have a small part in that. So we're here to serve the officers and serve the staff in whatever way that we can.
Well, we really appreciate you being on board. Thank you so much for your service to us and to the community. Thank you, sir. And so, Don, you had a full police career. When we first met 15 years ago, you were a lieutenant working in the personnel section. And as I mentioned earlier, Don did my background investigation, came out to Maryland to kind of meet the family and interview people in the hallway to see if anybody would talk smack about me. I don't know how successful you were or not, but I got the job. Thank you. And then you went away from, well, you retired, and then you went into the seminary.
Yes. Well, really enjoy going back and looking into your background. I tried to find all kinds of dirt, but I couldn't find a speck.
Yeah. We'll have all that edited out. Don't worry about it.
I did a ride along with an officer back there and then a sergeant, and went through your personnel file, internal affairs, and nothing but an exemplary officer. So we were very happy to be able to come back and recommend you for the job. Yes. 28-year career in law enforcement, 7 years in Michigan, 21 years as a sworn officer here in Scottsdale, then a year and a half in the personnel office. And I did that while I was going to seminary at night school. I had met another chaplain who encouraged me, plus I have 2 friends that are pastors, and they encouraged me also, because I kind of felt a leaning, and this is a calling, the rabbis and I, and like police work. It's a calling that you have. This is what you feel like you need to do. And so I got into chaplaincy work. I did hospice work for 4 years as a grief counselor, and then 6 years as a chaplain with a hospice organization. And I retired from my paid position with hospice. I still see hospice patients as a volunteer, and that freed up some time, and I came in to see you, Chief, and you were very encouraging, and I went through the same hiring process, if you will, for volunteers, which is the same for officers. And I said, didn't I do this, once already? And well, but you look at it, and we have to be so careful with the people that we bring on board here. So
the responsibility.
Absolutely. So you get through it, and like you say, I was away from police work for 15 years, and coming back as a police chaplain, it's a lot more stuff that the officers carry on their gun belts that I used to when I was an officer. But I soon found out that police work is police work. And the first ride-along I did, I was sitting in briefing with, it was interesting, with the officer I went to ride with, his father worked at Detroit PD when my brother was a Detroit police officer.
Family affair.
It's a family affair.
Small world.
And we were called out of briefing with the man with the gun call. And so we did, you know, just driving there, getting there safely and as fast as you can, and, you know, working to help and the public, doing what we can for the community to keep them safe. And so I kind of felt the need to kind of get back into police work. It's really been enjoyable. And I know a little bit about the rigors, like you two do, what you go through when you're in law enforcement, being what I went through as an officer. And we just want to do anything we can to help the officers. They have a terrific job, a very difficult job nowadays, and the scrutiny is really on them, and so we just want to help them. It's not an easy job, it's not an easy life for them or their families, and so I'm proud to be here with these two chaplains, just doing what we can to help with the officers, civilian employees, and the community in general.
Well, it's great to have you back, and it's great to have you in this capacity, and thank you so much. So why don't we talk a little bit about what kind of services you all provide to police families, their families, as well as the community?
Well,
just open that up.
Don alluded to it when he said that it's the officers and their families, because the police family doesn't stop at the department door. Officers go home, supervisors go home, and they need the opportunity to unload their stuff from the whole day. Sometimes they do it well, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes the family wants to know what's going on, and sometimes the family doesn't. And in those cases where an officer or supervisor might offer information that the family was reticent to hear because it was gruesome or it was taxing or it was something that he didn't necessarily want them to know about, but he told them anyway because he had to offload it, then we can go and talk to the family and bring them down and calm them a little bit and provide the opportunity to, without kind of going into deep counseling kinds of things, to provide them a short-term counseling opportunity. Sometimes kids get into stuff and the officers don't know how to handle it. Well, we may not know how to handle it, but we may know how to talk to kids, and we may be able to help them through their crises or whatever. There's a lot out there that our police department deals with that never makes the newspaper, and that's good, because they're helping people all the time. And law enforcement is probably a misnomer. It's more of assistance than it is enforcement. We do the law enforcement stuff when we have to, when there's bad stuff. But there are also a lot of good things that law enforcement officers do, and firefighters and EMTs likewise. And as chaplains, we have access, because of all this stuff that we've gone through, we're privileged to have access to information and details that some folks don't. And so we have to keep that tight. But we also know, because of hearing certain things, that we can put ourselves into a position of being helpful without imposing ourselves necessarily, just being there.
Thank you. Guys, are things that you've responded to in the short time you've been with us?
When I meet an officer I haven't met before, I usually tell them that the community supports you a great deal. We have, and I know, Chief, you've spoken about that many times, that we do have a community that supports the police department in a beautiful way. And I always tell them, I said, there are a million cheerleaders out there for this department. The chaplains are the only official cheerleaders that we know about. And we're here to be there for you in whatever way that we can be. And we represent an entire community that is here to support you. In my experience, just being at one of our district offices, being at headquarters, introducing yourself to an officer, even not in a time of need, gives the officers a sense of that the support, that the department is there to support them. We're actually a division of the chief's office, and so this represents the chief's support for the officers on the street. So and there's tremendous good feelings about that. I've been invited by several officers for coffee or lunch, and it's casual, but in that casual element, they're there. They want to share. They want to get to know us. You know, another thing that we can do, like all the volunteers, is be there in case there's a time of need where there's just a need for an extra pair of hands. on a couple of different occasions, I have seen an officer attending to a simple, car accident, and in a safe way been able to pull up and see, offer my assistance to the officer and identify myself, offer my assistance whenever the officer is in charge. And just this past week, I live at a corner where there tend to be quite a few car accidents, and there was an accident and an officer attending to an accident when another accident happened on the same spot just a few days ago, and I was there. I mean, I wasn't there during the accident, but when I came moments later, I was able to spend 45 minutes there, just waiting with the folks who were in the accident, who were uninjured, and waiting for their families to get there and supporting them and bringing them water and that kind of thing as a representative of the department, and really as a representative and extra hands to the officer that was attending.
It's wonderful. Thanks for that. But
Yeah.
don't want to necessarily bring it home to you. I don't know what intersection that is. We need to do something about that intersection.
We'll look into it. We'll mark that.
See, on the other side of the border, actually.
Okay.
And Don, I know, like you and I, we worked together. I worked for you at the District 3. We opened up District 3 together. Remember, we
Yes.
worked on the crazy desk.
The crazy desk
The
together,
crazy
yes.
desk. But we had so much fun, and we did a lot of stuff. But I also, on a personal level, want to thank all three of you for your prayers when I was going through some issues with my son in January. And it was so good to be able to reach out to you all, and you were all there for me. So on a personal note, I just wanted to say thank you for that. And I know you do that a lot with a lot of the officers that have family medical crises and things like that. And not just officers, but employees as well. But
Right.
I just want to personally thank you all so much for all your support during that time.
And there's other times I've witnessed where you've officiated at family funerals, unfortunately, and times of need, and that just, when people don't know who to reach out to and where help's at, the fact you guys are so available is just a wonderful, wonderful feeling for our family members.
And on the positive,
thank you for that.
On the positive side, I've done a couple of weddings.
Yes, you have.
Yes.
And that's a hoot.
Yes.
Pardon the language, but we do so much stuff which is heavy and somber and full of despair and pain. But to do a wedding, that's spectacular.
Yeah.
And when an officer says, you're a police chaplain, right? Yeah, I'm a police chaplain. Can you do my wedding? Wow. What a
And you guys
breakthrough.
do a lot of our
Pretty
events
cool.
as well. You do
Yes.
our Chiefs Award of Excellence. You do a lot of invocations and a lot of special events for not only the PD but the city as well when
Right.
we need
Absolutely.
a chaplain, which is very important. And so, anyways, Don, I just wanted to know. I know that it's kind of a leap from where we were to where you are now, but you and Alice are so sweet, and you were always relieving kind on the desk, and you could see that you had the gift of being very understanding and
Well, thank you very much, Chris, for saying that. And my granddaughter went through a tough time, and
That's right.
we shared
Samantha.
prayers for our
That's right.
individual family members. But that's what we do here. As Rabbi Shoshone said, this is a family. And when someone has gone through a rough time, there are others to support him, to reach out and to help that person through a rough time. And I experienced that personally, especially with you and
we were at
Chris,
the same
and then
time having
the
a
rabbis
crisis.
were saying prayers as well, and so it is a family. And it's been so good getting back into this law enforcement, this police family, and to just being with them. And we've got a great group of officers here. We really do. Just sitting in briefings with them. These guys are intelligent, and they know what they're doing. And it's, police work is police work, but it's more complicated now. I was talking to a couple of detective sergeants just the other day, and what they have to do to provide a case. Electronically, with all the technology concerns nowadays, it's so much tougher than just when I started, so many years ago. And so our officers now, and I'm sure our civilian employees too, they're sharp. They know what they're doing, and I've been really impressed with them.
Yeah, I appreciate that, and it's so true. And I often tell people, if you've never been in another police department before, sometimes you take it for granted that this is the way it is. But if you've been other places, as many of us have, and you come here, you realize there's a certain quality of employee, civilian sworn across the board, that's just different. It's just extremely professional and capable and caring. I've seen amazing videotape of officers dealing with people that not necessarily in the best position in society, but they're treating them royally. They're making sure their needs are taken care of and their issues are being addressed. And so you watch that and you go, it's not an act. They're not playing for the camera. This is actually the way this is the way they behave on a regular basis. And so we're indeed fortunate. The support systems help tremendously because it reinforces the fact that all that stress that people are dealing with, there's a way to alleviate that stress, as opposed to the way some people act out when they're under stress. And that's very important to give that relief valve to employees, and you guys have been tremendous in that. Now we have other groups of people, employees within the organization, who also do some support systems for us.
Peer
We mentioned
support group.
peer support group and PCIS. How do you all intermingle with them in your
Very
role?
well.
Okay, I mean, I knew that was the answer actually, but in what way for our viewers?
Well, if the PCAS organization,
Crisis intervention, everybody. Our
Thank you.
crisis intervention people.
yeah, and they do tremendous follow-up, which is really beyond what our capabilities are. So they'll deal with someone who's in crisis, and they'll have to respond and then go check on them a week later or a month later or whatever it is, and that's tremendous. If they need help from us on a scene, they'll call.
Right.
If it's a death notification, if they want help, they can call. We can do NOKs. If we happen to come up, as Rabbi Shushan does on his corner, on a wreck of some kind, if we can be helpful, we'll be helpful. We can put on a vest and go put out traffic cones if we have to, while the officer's dealing with a patient who's been injured. We serve in a whole bunch of different ways. And we know this department is good based on what we heard at the International Conference of Police Chaplains, where a lot of police chaplains don't have the kind of support that you provide us, and where they're kind of flying by their seat of their pants, not knowing quite what to do and how to do it. And by your letting us go to the International Conference, we see how good we are here.
Oh, thank you.
And
Well,
we've learned a lot.
Thank you. We're very, very proud of you guys, and very, very appreciative of the time and energy that you bring to the chaplaincy. And this is a program that certainly we are interested in expanding. So if some of our viewers are interested in this, we'll put a number up to Chris, your number for volunteering to come and ask how to do that. We'll put them in touch with one of you or all of you, and you can have a conversation about what's expected and the kinds of responsibilities and duties you have.
And what the requirements are.
What the requirements are, and the process, which can be lengthy. So my opportunity, Chris's opportunity, on behalf of the department to say
Yes,
thank you to the
so
three
much,
of
you guys. You are awesome. We love you.
Thanks for being part of our show and our guests, and we really wanted to showcase you to our community. So thanks again, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very
Chief.
much,
Thanks,
Chief,
Chris.
Chris, that's another show, another
Yes.
wrap. Okay, I'll work on a new introduction when I show up. Maybe I'll use a different name or
Sorry.
title, but we'll work on that. Until that time, be safe, everybody. Take
Bye.
care. Bye-bye.